Today is January 21st, 2015. Is that correct? 17, 18, 19, 20? Yeah, the 21st. And I'd like to make this as a response to the State of the Union address last night, bringing in, let's say, a couple things that I've just picked up offhand. I didn't watch the State of the Union address. I've watched a little bit of it, little snippets that they've given out. I've heard a couple comments here and there, so I'd like to bring up a couple things about what I've heard and my perception of the whole thing. The first thing was, I got up early this morning. I was driving to the gym. I was listening to the local right-wing station, and there the gentleman was basically hounding Obama in the State of the Union address about the fact that he wanted to increase the budget of the IRA, and his point was, why on earth would we want to increase the budget of the IRS? God, I got that wrong. The IRS. I'm not thinking straight. I wasn't quite prepared. Something came up beforehand. So, it had to do with the IRS. So the thing is, what do we know? We know that every $1 that's invested in the IRS gets a return of like $7 or $8 back. So every $1 billion that you invest in the IRS gets $7 or $8 billion back. So it pays for itself. We need the IRS. We have laws on the books because they need to be enforced. Maybe some need to be enforced less than others. But then that's part of the that would be incumbent upon the Congress to make those decisions that need to affect the tax laws and have that signed into law by Obama. But so they don't want to do that, so they want to decrease the budget. So thereby, the point is, they don't want the government to work. So they're big on law and order. Hey, if you do the crime, you do the time. Anything that might happen in a blue-collar area, anything that might happen out in the streets, shoot them and shoot them dead. But when it comes to white-collar crime, stealing from the government, stealing what is on the books, and some of them, let's just put it to you, some of the laws maybe should not be enforced, but some of them should be enforced. And the question is, they don't... This particular gentleman on the right-wing radio station was basically saying, we really don't want these laws enforced. We don't want the IRS to work effectively. We want people to cheat. We want people to keep more of their money, because the more money that they keep, the less the government has, the less the government can operate, and we'll all do better without the government. So, but the big point of the whole thing is they don't want the government to operate well. We need to have the government operate well. It needs to operate efficiently and effectively. It needs to operate with a clear set of rules, which Congress has not done. And it needs to be done. So that was the second one. So then after the gym, then I'm driving to my spot where I catch my public transportation. And the next person on that airways was basically denouncing Obama because he had someone that was sitting next to Michelle Obama who was not a U.S. citizen, who was an illegal. Legal term, alien, whatever you want to determine the thing was. And of course, mocking them for doing that. Mocking, indicating that they wanted sympathy because they wanted to bring the human element into it so that we would feel sorry for these individuals because they've been breaking the law. If I remember correctly, that particular person was a dreamer who basically was born here. Was born here? I can't remember offhand. But the point was that this person, they were mocking that person as illegal. Again, wanting to have that person sent back, a person who spent their entire life here, or the greater majority of their life here, that knows nothing about the home country that that person came from. And of course, they just want to send it back, mocking Obama for doing that. So again, they don't want government to work effectively. They don't want it to work efficiently. And their only response to the immigration problem is send everybody back, big a builder fence, and send everybody back. And of course, I always like to say, then why don't you increase the budget 100-fold on immigration so we can go and find all of the illegals and send all of them back. But they won't do that either. Because, that might cost a little bit more money, and then every penny that has to go into the government is less money that a millionaire or a billionaire has to pay to the United States. So they don't want to have to do that. That's the transfer that they don't want to have to do at all. So the next thing, I guess I was watching a little bit of MSNBC, and Mika was on, and Mika was asking, not too many. She actually asked a couple better questions, but they had the new senator from Arkansas on, Tom Cotton. And he went into the whole thing about how Obama didn't talk too much about foreign affairs, and how about ISIL, not ISIS, is out to kill everybody, and pointed out the number of times that it's been done. Of course, I'd like to point out at the same time that I believe last year there were over 10 beheadings sanctioned by the government of Saudi Arabia. So ISIL obviously is it's a despicable thing. It's inhumane, but this is state-sponsored terrorism that is sponsored by Saudi Arabia in terms of beheading people for, in some cases, well, I don't know, affairs, And I've talked about the ISIL thing. Very, very bad. They saw some pictures over the weekend of throwing a gay person off of a building in Mosul, indicating that possibly 13 young children had been killed because they were watching a soccer game, and that they might be beheading two Japanese people from Japan, if the Japanese government doesn't come up with $200 million within the next 48 hours or something like that. So Tom Cotton was railing about all of that, then went into the fact that, we actually were winning in Iraq before all this happened. And Howard Dean aptly pointed out two things, is that number one, when ISIL went into Mosul, it was the government forces of Iraq that turned and ran, mostly the Shia forces that turned and ran, and that also that we had a status of forces agreement that only went until 2011. That was negotiated by Bush, which the Iraqis did not renew. And of course, Tom Cotton, he's a smart guy. He went to Harvard. He was in Iraq. He knows that that's an absolute fact, but he wouldn't admit that. He wouldn't accept that as fact. He just said that we were winning until then. And so he was trying to blame all the losses that were going on in Iraq to Obama, and that's how ISIL fell into it. Remember that the Status of Forces Agreement was signed by Bush. It was not extended by Iraq. And of course, at the same time, there was a civil war going on in Syria, which has now gone over into the northern parts of Iraq. And the Iraqi army turned and ran through the whole thing. But again, so what does he want? And of course, it had to do with that Obama was asking to have an authorization to go to war against all these things. And of course, he's saying, that Tom Cotton is saying, but he didn't even ask us for one. He didn't even send us anything, unlike the Bush sent it before, the two Bushes sent before, in terms of Iraq 1 and Iraq 2, so to speak. And of course, I know what's going on. It's basically a game. So if Obama sends something to them, then everyone in the Republican leadership in the House and Senate is going to say, oh, no, we can't do this. You don't want to do this, all this other kind of stuff. But but you see, Obama is already doing these things. He's already bombing the heck out of them. We're already getting his best. We're already trying to get as much information as to where the people from ISIL are, so that we can kill them by drone action or by any type of missile. A Tomahawk missile, something like that. But you see, the thing is, the Republicans do not want to authorize a war, let's just say, against ISIL. They don't want to authorize that because that puts their actual fingerprints on it, and that they may be held accountable to it in the next election. So here's Tom Cotton basically saying, we don't want to have it, he wouldn't even ask us, he wouldn't even tell us what he wanted in terms of an authorization. But the point is, they don't want, but the point is, Obama's already doing these things. All they have to do is say, you can keep on doing them. But you see, they don't want to do that. They don't want to put their fingerprints on any of that, because if it comes back to haunt them, they'll lose in the election. So my point is that on the State of the Union address, the last thing, I forgot about the last thing, and that was, if I was a Democratic operative, if I was someone who was helping run campaigns for the Democrats, the one thing that I did say that just struck me so, just really wrenching, that's why I never watched those things, is when Obama talked about equal pay for equal work for women. And he came on and said, hey, it's 2015. We need to get this done. This is the way it's got to be. And of course, Biden's behind him. He's up and cheering, and then you could hear the other cheering, and then you could just see John Boehner, Speaker of the House, just sitting right there. And I'm going, if I was an operative, I'd show that ad. Anybody who was running against the Republican in 2016 in Congress, this is the leader of Congress. your boy or your girl kowtows to him because he sets the agenda, and he doesn't want any women in your area, in your district, to have equal pay for equal work. Your candidate, acknowledges that by look at what Boehner is standing there doing. He's not acknowledging that he wants equal work for equal pay. He does not want women to be equal to men. All right, and your particular person in your district is endorsing that because they endorse John Boehner. I think that'd be a great thing to do. That's what we need to. That's what the Democrats need to do, is to take that picture or any of the other ones, because there are a number of other times where the vice president was standing and John Boehner was just sitting right there. I don't know whether it was for climate change or whether it was for minimum wage or whether it was for tax deduction for the middle class. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. Operatives ought to be getting that stuff and getting ready to do those type of ads now.